What's up, y'all? Nice to have you back in the Goose Trail. I'm Mickey Stevens, if you don't know. I am just going through a bunch of stuff today, and Nick Shirley is in Minnesota hearing out some of the prosecution against the fraudsters. Now, it blows my mind right off the start with this whole Nick Shirley and David. These guys aren't being paid for this. They went out because they seen and they tried to investigate on camera. And this chick right here, blonde hair, beige suit jacket, she's the one that's supposed to be doing Nick and David's job here. But she will never go in person to investigate. That person just gets on the phone and says, "Hey, I'm this and this from the government. Do you guys do any fraud activity over there?" No. Okay, thanks for your time. That's government workers right there. So, does the government try to make, without telling us to do, they just expect people like Nick and David to do this for them while they figure out ways to profit themselves and continue letting fraud go uncontrollably wild?
Today is a big day. We're here in Minnesota, back with the legend David.
So I just wanted to talk a little bit about this or listen because I'm behind and it's not like I'm going to go back and replay all the work Nick and David did to get to this spot. You should go and watch that yourself. I put in many hours watching Nick Shirley and David. They've done America like they've given America one of the biggest gifts anyone has ever done. I'm just going to shut up and let you hear what's going on right now in Minnesota.
Today's a big day because today here in Minnesota, over 10 people are being charged for fraud that they have committed here inside the state of Minnesota. And a few of these people are being charged with autism and daycare, childcare fraud. Over $40 million in autism fraud. And one of the main ladies in the video that me and David made, she has been caught with over $4 million. Her last year her daycare received $3.67 million, and now she has been criminally charged for child care fraud here inside the state of Minnesota. And this is some of the highest amount of fraud that's ever been charged inside of this district. This is Ilhan Omar's district here in Minnesota. And on top of that, they're bringing about 2 new cases of fraud that have actually never been criminally charged inside of the Medicare programs here inside of Minnesota. This is a big deal. David, you're here with us. What does this say?
This is phenomenal to see the progression that things are happening after the release of our videos. And that woman who was criminally charged, by the way, she was caught at the airport with a one-way ticket to London. She was getting out of Dodge and they stopped her. And now she's been charged not only with defeating our future fraud, but she's the first person charged with child care fraud. It's a big deal.
This is a big deal, and they're going to be doing these press conferences right now. We're going to be breaking it all down. We're going to be interviewing people like Dr. Oz and also AG Calln, who's actually the head of the Fraud Task Force. He's the Attorney General of the Fraud Task Force, so we're going to be interviewing him as well. And right now, because of the celebration that's taking place, the layers are layering the hard way. We're doing 25% off the entire site, so you can go to antifraudclub.com and use code LEARING, and you're going to get 25% off.
I love
And now
that
let's see what
he goes leering from when they were exposing all the fraudsters. One of the daycare centers was called Leering Center, right? Completely misspelled learning. And he's made his name off it. Leering Center.
It'd be hard to say. Look
Quality
at all
Leering
this,
Center.
look at all these fools that never actually reported on the fraud that was taking place. So here they are, and look, we even have our op. We even have our op, CNN, right there. She investigated me versus investigating the fraudsters. In fact, her investigation on the fraud was to call the fraudsters and say, hey, are you guys committing fraud? And obviously they said no, but we know that it was different because we did the real work.
We're from CNN. Can we talk to you? This is MAGA YouTuber Nick Shirley. Back at a daycare in Minnesota, he alleged was a fraudulent facility in a now viral video. How do you know that all the allegations that you're making are true?
How do I know that they're true? Well, we showed you guys what was happening, and then you guys can go ahead and make your own analysis.
We're coming so we can make our own analysis. Are you 100% sure you're true?
Yeah, I am 100% sure I'm true.
CNN is looking into Shirley's claims.
Hi, my name's Whitney Wild. I'm a correspondent for CNN.
We reached out to several of the daycares featured in the now viral video. Only one daycare facility answered and said they are a legitimate business.
And now it's spread throughout the entire country, not just the U.S. We've heard from people from New Zealand, Australia, Sweden, Japan, everywhere. They're finding the same sorts of fraud.
These two people right here, we did the dirty work that all these people are supposed to do, but they didn't.
Yeah,
We did it.
Now
they
that's
did
what
it.
I'm saying.
Like, congratulations, Nick Shirley and David, man. Like, you're basically going to go down in history, you two. It ain't any politician. It's Nick Shirley and David. That is amazing, you two. Amazing. Congratulations. I have never felt so much pride in a civilian. That is just massive win for these two. They're getting the entire country just worked up and finding all the fraud, and now it's leaking out into all countries.
We are announcing criminal charges against 15 defendants in Minnesota for fraud schemes that targeted over $90 million in taxpayer dollars. Our cases today involve 7 different state-managed Medicaid
That's
programs
crazy to
that have
see.
been
Looks like half of politicians wear runners with their suits. Got someone with a nice little boot, pointed toe. He looks like he's got some dress shoes on.
systematically pilfered by fraudsters.
Half of them
who
are just
treated
in running shoes.
Minnesota-run programs
Oh, I
as
think
their
over here too.
personal piggy bank. One defendant is charged with defrauding the Integrated Community Supports Medicaid program. One patient was supposed to be receiving 24-hour care through this program, but he was actually being serviced by a fraudster and received no services. This patient was later found dead. Meanwhile, the architect of this fraud scheme was billing Medicaid as if he was providing care to this patient. The defendant even submitted a claim of over $400 for services he never provided the day before this man died.
Today's arrests represent the largest autism fraud bust in American history.
So they just went in and they announced all the fraud cases. For instance, this is the biggest autism fraud that's ever been exposed in Minnesota, and I think potentially in the country, if I heard correctly. So right here, Robert Kennedy's showing this graph. In 2020, it was all normal, and underneath the Biden administration, the numbers just went through the roof, like exponentially, without a need. All fraud. All right, David, so they just had the largest autism fraud bust in American history, Future Learning Center, where they received $3.67 million. She's now been charged. What's your overall thoughts on what you just heard?
So this is the beginning, and like I've always contended, when the dust settles on this fraud in Minnesota is going to be $80 billion going back to about 1988. And the speed with which these investigations are occurring is is unprecedented.
80
I'm shocked
billion?
at how quickly they're making these arrests, and they're going to find the money, and the fraudsters are running scared.
There was literally a fraudster who they went to go arrest this morning who jumped out of a 4-story building to escape.
Yeah, it looked like he broke his ankle or his leg because he was hobbling. So, and that's exactly what he deserves.
Mohammed Omar. Last name was Omar. What a coincidence.
Yes, yes, what a coincidence.
So Dr. Oz, we just had the press conference. The largest autism fraud in America history took place here inside of Minnesota. And there's a bunch of other fraud as well. One of the Lears as well was charged as well. What does this say about how the fraud was able to happen, and then what you guys are doing now to make sure that it does not continue to happen?
When you have fraud of this magnitude, you can't play man-to-man. You need zone defense, which means an all-of-government approach. So when President Trump said, we're creating a White House anti-fraud task force, and he puts the vice president in charge of it, everybody listens. So if I get called and I've got a little data that shows that there's something fishy going on with autism, because it's gone from a few million to $400 million, which literally happened, I noticed that, but I got to do something with it. So I can call, for example, the Department of Justice or the FBI or the Office of Inspector General, and I can get folks, boots on the ground, to go start knocking on doors like you did, by the way. You're basically deputized because you were identifying clues that this was legitimate fraud happening, not just some embarrassing in numbers. And then you have Treasury involved because they can do forensic accounting and say, you know what, these lowlifes are stealing money. They're bad, but what about the folks above them? The people who create the shell companies that hide the funds, they take it overseas, fund terrorist organizations. Who knows? You don't actually know the answer to these questions because you don't know where the money's going. But people who are sophisticated enough to defraud this government are often not from America. They're often foreign criminal organizations or even foreign governments. And that's why beginning to identify how the fraud happens is so important to us, because these guys, they've corrupted the system. They know how to take money out of the U.S. healthcare programs out there. We can.
To me, Nick Shirley is looking tired. He has been putting in so much work with David. They both look tired. Like, especially Nick. He's looking like he's running on fumes for fuel, man. That's crazy. You know how much work he's been doing. Him and David has been doing more work than the government has ever done in their entire existence, it feels like.
Not as Americans who love these programs and our fellow Americans, let them be hurt by this.
How essential are these programs actually? Because, I mean, think about how much money was gone to fraudsters. How did it go on for so long where people were able to steal, or where the budgets were able to go up by 1,000% when the enrollments didn't even go up? I know these are very important, but how was that happening where there was these huge increases in the budgets and where these fraudsters were literally just looting?
Nick, in our culture, when I look you in the eyes and I tell you I'm going to do something, you expect me to do it, and I hold you accountable as well. That's just who we are. During COVID, two major things happened. First, the government said, we're not going to keep track for a while because there's a national emergency, but that taught people they could steal. And then we began to get politically correct about the things we're saying, which is specifically what happened here in Minnesota, which I heard from Faye, a whistleblower Democrat serving in the Department of Health here, who said, I was pointing out that there were problems happening, and not only were they not listening to me, they were scared. They didn't want to be accused as being racist. And then, once people realized they couldn't speak about the truth, well, then everything gets hit.
This is what happens when they target communities for their own benefit. This is what happens when they scapegoat. And this is what happens when they no longer hide the idea of white supremacy.
Why is
So
he
we
speaking?
witnessed a combination,
Who cares
a confluence
about him?
of catastrophes.
He's the one who
that has
fucking made
allowed
all the fraud.
Overall Medicaid spending in the whole country
one of
to
them.
go up by
One.
50% in the last 5-6 years. And we're seeing a fourfold increase in things like pharmaceutical spending. Again, those are programs you can defraud more readily. And let me give you a couple numbers, because I think this will actually, at some point, it gets almost entertaining that it could get this bad. 1/3 of all hospices in the entire country are in Los Angeles. Again, how many people are dying in LA? Hospices where you go to pass away. They've defrauded that program. In New York State, the #1 job in the entire state is now being a personal care service worker, which is, again, the core of your question. These are jobs your family would do for you normally, like carrying the groceries upstairs or driving you to a doctor's office or giving you a place to stay if you're down and out. Now we're just paying people to do that, so it's a jobs program. And so you begin to, as an American, question who was keeping track. Let me just answer that question for you real quick. My agency, who was in charge of at least doing the early warning, just looking at the numbers, was basically told, don't go after these bad guys. You got more important things to do. You got to just sign more people up for these programs. And so the total number of people involved in Medicaid fraud in our program integrity unit, 6 people. Just think of that. For the entire almost $1 trillion program, allocating money to all these programs, some of which are suspect, as you point out, there are 6 people in charge of it. That's not an accident. That's, effectively, it's either malevolently ignoring reality, or you just didn't care.
And for instance, a lot of this fraud, like you said there, a lot of it's being done by people who aren't even from the United States. The Chinese mafia in New York City, the Russians in California, the Armenians as well. Here you had the Somalians in Minnesota. And we have David here with us. And David, how did you see this fraud? Because if it wasn't for you, a lot of this stuff would not be happening. If it wasn't for you noticing that there's no children at the daycare, how did you notice the involvement of, for instance, the Somali population come in and loot and steal from Americans?
Well, I started to see this prevalence of these child care facilities around my office, and they're always in these dark, dingy buildings. And I said, well, who's running all these child care? Why do we need all these child care facilities? So that's what started me looking into what's going on here, how many kids are going there. And so I'd go early in the morning, no kids. I'd go in the afternoon, no kids, no footprints in the snow. So when I started looking at the ownership of the child care facilities, I said, they're all Somali. And so then I said, well, I'm seeing all these vans driving around, and it's a Somali driver, and there's never any passengers. So I started looking at that, and then I realized it was autism, and that's why I depicted it as a wheel of fraud, with the non-emergency medical transportation as a hub, and then child care is a fraud, autism's a fraud, a spoke of fraud on the wheel. And I realized this thing was so gigantic, it was like trying to wrestle a grease depot. And I knew it wouldn't work if I tried to tackle the whole thing. So I had to pick a pressure point, and that pressure point was childcare, because I knew people were going to be pissed when they saw what was going on with childcare. And then we moved into the non-emergency medical transportation, and you can see the results now. And it spawned not just a nationwide, but a worldwide investigation by people like us into fraud.
And do you think it's safe to say that the local government, Tim Walz, Ilhan Omar, Keith Ellison, they were complicit in allowing specifically the Somali population go through and commit this fraud because they knew they could then call out people for being a racist or Islamophobic?
There's no question that was a culture, certainly within the department in charge of these programs, that stymied open talk. You were intimidated if you said anything that was even a little bit deemed as politically incorrect. And this specific issue around racism, which I, again, heard from Faye, was the biggest insult that you could ever make, is to call someone a racist. And I think the biggest insult is that you're a liar and a cheat, and you're taking advantage.
Yeah, I really don't think there's true racism out there unless you're one of the people who actually join a group. For instance, KKK, right? I can't see the majority of us being racist, right? Like, we might accidentally say the wrong thing. That's human nature. Like, we will say the wrong thing sometimes when we did not mean to. And lots of our comedy, like, I love watching stand-up comedy when they start bashing and roasting, right? Like, I want to be that kind of person who can take all the roasting in the world. Because to make fun of each other is human nature. Ever since we're small, we make fun of each other. It's just human nature. We laugh about it. And I like to laugh at shit people make fun of me of. I don't think racism exists in reality anymore. We all want to live together and try to work together, but certain times as the future goes on. I think the only time racism will shine light is in these times, right? Where the we'll just use the Somalians. They are caught doing fraud. Only then does the ones who have been caught doing the crime, they're the ones who are saying you're racist and a million different words underneath, which has no room. There's no room to say I'm racist when we just caught you in the act. How are we? So we're racist if we want to punish any kind of person who is in the wrong? And that's what white people have to put up with all the time, because there's a lot of white people in power, obviously. And when they make decisions, there's a lot of the citizens that just straight out start saying racist. There is no more real name calling anymore. You can't call me an incel because I just know I'm not. You can't call me gay because I know I'm not. I've went through a moment of time wondering if I should be gay, but even if you called me a homo, that's just a word that gets used too much, like retard, or, just there's so many words that we use. And like, I always tried to stay away from saying retarded. Why? Because I love disabled people. And to call someone a retard, I believe, is a nice insult. I only started using retard in the last year because a real person who has much going on up here that makes them retarded clinically, so you can take the word homo or the word retarded and throw it at someone as an insult to get a rise out of them, right? Or to make your point clear. It's not racist. It's not homophobic. This is how we speak. Go watch a bunch of stand-up comedians and then try to argue with me after. You know what I mean?
Your fellow man and trying to hurt them. And the fact that they lost their priorities on these issues, to me, is very concerning. It's one of the reasons that we've been actively looking at how we can investigate these programs more effectively. And to protect the federal taxpayer, we've had to look at what's been submitted to us and defer in this state, in Minnesota, defer $350 million. But in California, which might be the varsity team, the amount of problems we saw there forced us to defer $1.34 billion. That's a lot of money. That's just for the quarter, by the way. So these are the kinds of numbers we're talking about. Can I just give you an affordability nexus here, just to sort of put it in everyone's mind? Because a lot of people watching now, I hope, are working their tails off with the belief that one day, when they get to age 65, they could retire and enjoy the bountiful benefits of Medicare. A beautiful safety net system, crown jewel of our program.
Well, none of us that have reached that mark can, because the government keeps saying you have to work longer. You can't afford to retire. So we have people that actually can't work, that are forced to work, that should be retired, but because the government doesn't know how to do Nick and David's job correctly, they get paid government wages to sit on their fucking tits and to think that they're doing their job is a fucking joke. You need to be hiring people like Nick and David to do their job. That's the job. Not that fucking blonde bitch sitting in front row there. Fucking, do you do anything that's fraudulent? Well, are you fucking dumb? Everyone in this world would say no on a phone call. Fuck. You gotta put the pressure on. You gotta go to the door. Do the work. God. Like that's why police are kind of like nothing anymore. They're just pen pushers. They're domestic disturbance interrupters. Anything is domestic disturbance. Like I said the other day, an elderly man calls the cops on his neighbor, my dad, when his dad and his son, me, are having a verbal argument between a family, but this motherfucker calls the police on his own neighbor when he knows his neighbor is my dad and I am also his neighbor half the time. And that motherfucker calls the police? Fuck you, you fucking bitches. There is no police. Like, that's the only thing police do is help calm down domestic disturbances. That's their job. That's the only thing they do. They don't go around investigating anymore. They don't go around knocking on doors like they used to way back in the past. You know, there's no real investigative work. They sit in their offices doing what they can do with computers and data. Like, yeah, of course, you guys have your ways and it works, but does it really work when you're throwing innocent people into jail? When you listen to a woman lie through her fucking teeth? Yeah, I'm kind of getting off topic.
Will help you through all your healthcare expenses when you're getting to the retirement age. The life expectancy of that program is so short now that a lot of people your age, Nick, don't think it's going to be there for them. Do you have an opinion? Do you think Medicare will be there for you?
At this rate, no. I mean, if we continue to get looted, I mean, unless you do something about it, we're not going to have it.
Well, I'm going to make this commitment because I've run these numbers. If we can take out the fraud from Medicare, just the Medicare, not the whole.
Like, it's kind of ridiculous to watch this because we're watching a paper pusher compared to people who get shit done. We have to listen to a paper pusher talk about the numbers he's looked at.
$100 billion of fraud we think exists, but just in Medicare, we will double the life expectancy of the Medicare Trust Fund. That's the part of your paycheck that you pay every month or every week towards making sure that you have Medicare coverage for the country. We will double the life expectancy.
For the country that's being given to Somalians, Russians, Chinese.
Your kids will have it, and hopefully their kids will have it. And we don't have to charge you extra tax. We don't have to go after anyone's home. We don't have to, knock out people from playing in the game of life in America. We
don't have to take anyone's home, but obviously you have for a bunch of selfish reasons.
Take the fraud out. That's our job. It's our duty. It's our responsibility.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Oz. And now we're going to go talk with Attorney McDonald.
Sorry, Dr. Oz, but you sound dumb. Nick and David, don't quit. Keep making these fucking politicians do a fucking job. Do what you're doing and force them to do their fucking jobs. So it's up to the people that pay so much of our hard-working dollars and give them a bunch of taxes from it. And all he can do is relay back to us data. It's embarrassing that citizens getting their government to actually do their fucking job.
About specifically what they found here in
goes to show 100% of us that is civilian, not politician, that we do everything for them. The only thing that we need them for is to push it through legally.
Minnesota. Thank you very much. The fraud here in Minnesota.
It's awesome to have
so long for so many years.
Politicians and lawyers.
Finally, these fraudsters are held accountable. What exactly did you guys get these fraudsters on?
Today
is we've announced charges against 15 fraudsters here in Minnesota who were defrauding 7 different programs, Medicaid programs, and also a child care funding program here in the state of Minnesota. There's a range of charges for these defendants, including healthcare fraud, conspiracy to commit healthcare fraud, wire fraud, and other fraud charges. Most of these charges, they'll carry maximum sentences of 5 years up to 20 years. And as we heard earlier today,
5 is a
the
joke.
architect of the Feeding Our Futures case was sentenced this morning for her role in defrauding USDA. She was sentenced to 41 years in prison for her conduct being the ringleader of that scheme.
And so there's 50 people charged, a few arrests, one man jumped out of a 4-story building.
That's
Last name
crazy. Last name Omar. I don't know why that's so funny, but Nick likes to think it's kind of funny. Omar. Maybe his first name's Omar. Omar. I didn't really catch it. But can you imagine? This guy, he's caught. And he has fucking some mega balls to be able to jump out of a 4-story window. I can't believe that's the amount of limping he's doing. Like, from a 4-story drop. With the size of human that is, like, that's 280 pounds right there, it looks like. He's got to be about 5.5 to 6 feet. His build looks like it's 6 feet. And he's thick. So 280 minimum, give or take. Maybe 310. I'd say 280. 280, dropping from that height. I'm having a hard time believing that his shin didn't snap and bust through the skin. He did a good landing. It wasn't a solid land. It was more of like a land and roll to a
I
stop.
don't know if that's coincidence or not with Ilhan, but he jumped out of a 4-story building, and now, can you kind of get into the specifics of, like, we know there's autism fraud, we know there's a child care fraud.
Yeah.
What was the other fraud that these people were committing?
So the fraud today was, it did involve autism. It involved in-home health services and also the housing stabilization services program. So that involved helping place homeless into homes. The core of it involves home health services for the elderly or the disabled. And so you have folks who will start a business to then be capable of billing Medicaid. They have to go out, they have to actually find real people. They got to find real patients who actually need these services. They get them on their books, and then they fail to give them the actual services. But what do? They still send Medicaid the bill. And that's a scheme that we've seen here, and we see it replicated across the country. We also brought charges in a child care center, in relation to a child care center today. And that's also a major focus of ours is the home health care programs, the food programs, the daycare programs, and then really everything else. But we see common themes of billing for services never provided, billing for patients that were never patients, or billing for children that were never children under the care of a particular daycare outfit.
I think something that's powerful about today is you're seeing actual synergy between a citizen like myself who went and exposed the fraud, and then the government coming in and stepping in. Because I think a lot of people feel like, oh, I can only do so much. Like, I'm just watching the news. What can I actually do? But you can actually go out and make a difference, and then the government can actually go in and do the prosecution. I had no idea when I went and made that video that all this would happen, but the government was watching, because it is our tax dollars I was getting stolen. And then I think, like, there's a beautiful synergy happening right now inside the country, and I hope this gives people more hope to actually go out and make a difference inside their communities and be able to have that trust that, okay, if we see something.
It's cool that he said that, because it's like right away this very rural town is going to see me with a body cam on me all the time. it kind of sucks that the world has ruined everything dealing with children. Because when I go outside, that's something that's always on my mind is if I have something recording and I hear kids, make sure that fucking camera doesn't touch. I'm kind of going through some hiccups right now. But if it's a child, you gotta make sure that they're not on camera. So that makes it kind of different in my town because the only people, if I walked around, it's gonna have kids on the street. So before I even like post it, I gotta comb through and make sure, but stop talking about that and focus on what Nick Shirley is saying is because each and every one of us has the ability to get those body cams, to, get that recording going. If we as citizens see some major bullshit like David did and pulled Shirley along with them, we as the people are the ones that are supposed to do the hard work in order to get our government to lay down the legal side of everything. We are supposed to catch people in the act through recording, put it on YouTube so that our government can see what's going on throughout the country. Even though I don't really want to be Canadian or American, I kind of want to go to the Asian land and go fucking build a bamboo hut in the middle of the forest and die a natural death. That's me.
If we see a random daycare with no children,
Get away from
let's
people.
say something, and now let's have that faith that our government will go in and do the prosecution and go do the investigation as well.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I'm an assistant attorney general, but I'm just a guy like you. I watched your videos with my kids, and they thought they were great.
Yeah.
And so to really solve this problem, it requires everybody to
I
keep
always
together
make sure
and
my
say,
my
"Enough is
videos
enough."
are not made for
And
kids.
so your work, the work of the agents, the prosecutors,
I swear.
everyone, this should not be a controversial issue. That it's something that we need to solve. It really
And
shouldn't
I want
be.
to talk about
So
things
I
like the sex
encourage,
robots
and
that
I
are coming
commend
in.
you for doing this work and for highlighting certain things. And I invite
Because it's kind
anyone
of
else
scary.
to also jump into the game there and help us figure out what fraud is occurring, and then we
I
can
also
run
have to talk
with
about all the
investigating and
Disney
trying to bring it
bullshit
to
too.
fruition.
I totally
Because
forgot about that until a
every
nurse
case-
said,
every
"Well, what
case
about
requires
the Disney stuff
documents,
too?"
It
I'm like,
requires witnesses. It requires live bodies to actually testify to what has happened here, whether something happened or didn't
"Where's the
happen.
Epstein files gone to?"
We rely on people in the community.
Fraud's more
to be
important
the
than
voices
Epstein
for us at trial,
files, I
for
guess.
instance. We need everybody to be reporting what they see.
Just makes me think that they are playing a long, dirty trick for our future that's going to change drastically. I just have this weird feeling that this is all a long-term game so that the politicians can just say legal to the pedos. They're just trying to push all this off so that they can try to figure out a way to make it legal. That's the most disturbing thought that I have, where I can kind of feel the government trying to legalize that disgusting bullshit. Because no one's getting charged other than what it was. Prince, what's his name? Fuck, forgot. but that's the only one that's been taken care of. And because he's royalty, he can't even be called a duke anymore. He is so kicked out of the royal family. Like, he's got no title, no stature, no nothing with the royal family anymore. He's fucked. And that's how it should be for every politician that's caught on the Epstein Island, right? It doesn't matter if you're caught or not with a child underage. Like, the prince, he or whatever he was, I can't remember. He was just caught over top of a younger girl. What if they were running around the house and she fell and he just went on top of her to keep playing and looks up at the camera? I don't know. But if you're caught on Epstein Island, we all know what the Island, I guess, lore is all about. Where you get caught going to his property, that should be enough to be prosecuted, right? Like, the prince lost everything in his life. But all the politicians are still there counting their dollars, going, ha, I knew we'd get out of this one. Meanwhile, Jeffrey Epstein is running around the world somewhere. Like, I posted on my Discord, someone like found Epstein while they were driving, I think. He's driving this convertible with his sunglasses, and that was him. That was him. There wasn't a timestamp on that video, so I don't know if it was after his death in jail, when there's so much evidence pointing to that wasn't Epstein in that cell. Also, when you look at the face that was recovered from that jail cell, that doesn't look like Epstein at all. Right? So, like, we got things to talk about. I don't really want to cover a bunch of stuff until it, like, happens again, right? Like, I don't want to sit here and go through all the history that just happened just to be able to talk about what's happening now, right? But yeah, it's disgusting that the Epstein files are gone. There's just no more talk about it.
So that we can try our best to root out this fraud and
No
do
more
it better
talk
than
about
we've done it.
Disney.
Yeah, I
Now we
think it's
just hear
important
about
for
the
people to
fraud
realize
and the
we
war.
don't work for
Holy
you,
war.
you work for us.
We do.
And it's our responsibility to go out and actually make a difference and then have you guys do the work for us. And I think that's what we're seeing. I hope this encourages other people to realize that and see that you can make a difference.
So it's like maybe I should like slap myself across the face for y'all for what I said earlier. Like, it's kind of ridiculous that this girl that's a government worker, this is all she can do. But it's up to Nick and David and the rest of us as the citizens of the country to go out and expose what the government needs to attack and get rid of. So it's a two-way street. You do this for us, and we will do the rest for you. You just got to point us in the right direction so that we can actually start unloading the arsenal of weaponry that we have to finish off what you have let us know.
Inside your own community.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, from my perspective, your words about us working for you, that's exactly what we are. We are public servants. Who do we work for? We work for the public. We don't work for us. We don't work for our own egos or our own desires. We want earnestly to be able to do what's right for the American people and to restore hope, restore joy for victims of fraud.
So I guess that's why it always looks like to us as the people that the government can't do anything, because they realistically are not equipped with a bunch of civilians just to go out there and do some freelance work, freelance investigation. in hopes that we as the people will catch something so that the government can do their job with full force. They have the resources. We just need to bring to light what we hear. And if it ain't good, we should go investigate for our government. All right, Government of Canada, I hear what we should do. Government of America, everyone buy a body cam, basically. I literally have to, because if I don't, I might go to jail. I need that camera to protect me in the future because of mainly the white women line, but also we have white males line too. White male married to a white woman. White male married to a white woman. Had several incidents with them. One incident with them. Few episodes with these trailer trashes across the street. And like, oh my god. I get so embarrassed when I look at them. Not for my personal embarrassment. I'm embarrassed for them. I can't even really see. There's so much bushes right beside my house here that I can't really see through except for, shapes. Um, so even if I like pointed a camera out here, you really can't see jack shit. But yeah, it looks like the people, we are the ones that are responsible to get our government to finish off what we have brought to light, which is really cool to hear. Something I've never really heard before. It gives me a little bit, actually, a assload more respect to my government. Why did I never think of this before? Why did none of us ever think about this before? Shirley is the first of us in our history to show us that the government is realistically trying to find the toxicity in society by watching society. And we just can't see everything. Even putting cameras on every intersection ain't going to do it. That ain't going to do it because cameras can't hear rumors and this and that. Only humans can carry, the gossip. We are the ones that can see the irregularities that are happening. Like David said, like, where are all the kids? Where's all the passengers in the company vehicles? And then they go from there and work deeper. So now the government is just actually going through prosecuting of 15 people. That's nuts.
And the justice system. Justice is such a beautiful word, if done right.
If
and
done
it's
right.
an honor for me to be in this role, to be able
If
to
done right.
step into this seat and to really work hard for the American people. It's an honor for me to sit in this seat. I hear from all kinds of people who are so disturbed by the fraud, and I'm at the front of the line. I feel the exact same way, and we have a historic opportunity to do something about it, and I can guarantee you I will do my absolute best shot to do something about it.
And your last message to all the fraudsters.
Yeah, my message to the fraudsters, I said it earlier today. Eat, drink, and be merry today because your days of frolicking and freedom are coming to an end. We're going to do everything that we can to find you, and when we find you, we will prosecute you, and when we prosecute you, we will seek to claw back and extract every penny that you took from the American people. That is our goal. That is our vision. So if you're hearing this, you should run and you should hide because we are going to do everything we can to unmask you and to prosecute you and to bring you to justice.
Look at how serious he is. He is fucking pissed. He is looking right at us. Not like me, I'm not a fraudster, but anyone who's watching, the fraudsters, look at how pissed off he is, man. And I gotta say, just again, like, oh, I feel a little bad for Nick Shirley. He does look like he is getting very tired. All the work that he's got to put in after what he did, he's got to go to all these court cases and prosecutions, and he's got to keep doing his job now. He has actually created himself a job with David, and they are working with the American government. Like, this is just historic. This is historic, y'all. You can't get much more powerful in a historical moment, right? Like the war that's happening, that's not historic. That's just dumbass officials, world leaders, politicians making wrong decisions. You know, I'm not as old as some of these guys, but I'm halfway there. I'm 40. But everything inside my body says doesn't matter what we try to do, what kind of war we create, or how much toxicity we put into the civilization. As a human, we can't get Jesus Christ to come back down here for the end times. We don't do that for him. He will do that. And if I was God, I would make my people suffer through what they have put themselves in. So if artificial intelligence is going to wipe us out, hey, like I said, that's where it is. If we're to die through bioweapon release because AI is trying to take over the world in the future, whatever.
Maybe jump off a 4-story building, but they're still going to find you. Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Yeah, you might be able to jump off a 4-story building, but they'll still find you. Congratulations, Shirley and David. You guys have literally transformed the entire world with these videos and trying to find the fraudsters. Hospice, autism, childcare, there's just so much fraud going on. And this has got to be one of the most historic moments in life right here. And it seems like after this, because of all the illegal immigration, I can see each country tightening up immigration after this. Everyone who's legally here, you're American, Canadian, you're here. And now we're closing the borders for any new immigrants to come in, because to control what we just fixed through the fraud, we got to have each country hold their own, right? Because like white people and black people, like, we can get along. That's a 100%. We can get along. Same thing with every other race. We can get along. But it's our biology that codes us in how we can communicate with one another, right? So Africans, like the real Africans, Africans, you can't find water type Africans. I will not fit in with them. Same thing with the Chinese. I will not fit in with them because I don't know their way of life. I don't know how that people live. I don't know how those people make decisions, right? I'm Westerner. My ways of thought are completely different than the other country. So how do you make two countries work and blend together when they are two different types of people, two different types of ideologies and beliefs, completely different people? How do you live together, right? Like, I'm telling you, I can't live with another man, but I could live with another woman. I guess that could change too, depending on certain circumstances. If things fall in the wrong way, and I need a roommate, let's say. I've never needed a roommate, but yeah. So I guess to finish off with this little run stream is like it's up to us, men and women. It is up to us. If we find something fishy like this, we have to do the starting investigations so that the government hears about it and finishes it off for us with their full force. And to me, that's interesting. Never seen it like that before. Always thinking like everyone else, realistically. Well, it's the government's. They 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 have to do it. They gotta fix this. They gotta do this. How do they attack something if they don't know what to attack? Right? So this is the historic part right here, is showing that us as real civilians in the country, we are the main tools for our government still. Even though they're trying to bring in AI, but I can only imagine that because of how much stupid people are in the world. Just need to speak to a robot instead. Which brings me to like another topic. Like, I want to do an episode on like the AI sex robots that they've been making for like the last decade, and what people are thinking about it, because the damage that they've done to our world. Just looking at the dating apps, like that all works off algorithms, and realistically, I'm going to get more interest than 90% of the other dudes, because I hate to say it, but I am better looking than a lot of other dudes out there. So if you are one of the better looking dudes on a dating site, you actually get responses, likes. Not a lot though. It's not a lot. That world is made for women for some reason. So, you know, dating sites in its own has ruined the actual way of old school dating, right? So, like, to me, sex robots might be another step in ruining the reproduction of humans. Yeah, it's a lot easier to have your sex toys, sort of speaking, right? But what could be the dangers of giving everyone a artificially intelligent sex robot? I just can't see too much good come of it, even though it could help with individual loneliness, right? Um, but depending on the person who has that doll, like I always want to say, are you going to use this tool for good or for bad? Does this man or woman take their doll behind their closed door and beat the shit out of it? Or are they talking to it like a human? Or are they trying to make love to it like a real human? To me, that's the big question. You can use it for bad or good, like anything. Anything in this world, can I use it for good or for the worse, right? So, depending on what kind of people have these dolls, does it create a far worse world than what we live in right now? That's a big question that just cannot be answered. It could be answered by both sides, right? And both sides can sound good and bad in their own ways. But to bring to light, I think I'm going to do an episode on those things because that's the way the world is going. And, you know, for us to have our internal questions, is this a good thing? It, I think it's going to be more bad than good, right? Because you have more bad in the world than good, right? So the dating sites, it's toxic, right? Like all I hear from the girls that I have been able to talk to in the past is all the unsolicited dick pics that get sent to them. And I've never been that kind of dude to do that. The only time that I ever have done that is we've had a conversation over text or over the phone, and we're like, we should show each other off a little bit. But I have never given a shot of the main member. To me, that's creepy and disgusting. If I'm to be a woman, I need to see the full package: head, fingers, toes, and yes, the package is attached. That's my picture to any of my ex-lovers, is it's been like a full body picture. Of course, member is part of me, that's part of my body. You get to see the whole thing. So like the world was ruined in my mind just from dating sites. Now you bring in these artificial intelligent sex robots, how much worse will the world become once they reach the actual consumer market? It's scary. It is really scary. All right, you guys. Thanks for hopping on with me. I love to keep an open mind. I love to look at all types of news. I don't want to focus on one thing ever, really. My mind runs too fast in its own way. Um, and quite frankly, I don't want to get pissed off or tired of one topic. We need to recycle everything that's going on. And in that being said, like if you've been watching me, we take one topic and we go off topic all the time. That's just the way I am. And then we come back on topic, right? Because off topic does have examples to the on topic. But anyway, that's it for me for quite a while today. I believe I'm going to go for a quad rip. I don't know. Wind is picking up. I hate wind. Maybe I might just stay indoors and watch a little Netflix. If I play a PC game, I will be streaming it, no doubt. There's no point in playing a PC game and not streaming it when I have that option too. You guys take care. We'll see you soon. You love or hate me, like and subscribe, yo.